What is going on, y'all? It is the Caveman back at it again with another video. You read the title correctly. I do think 2022 is going to be a brutal year for the New England Patriots, and they're really going to be met with their downfall. Now, whether or not you are or are not a Patriots fan, you're probably sitting there wondering why I may believe what I believe, but I'm going to explain that in just 1 minute. But before we get into it, you guys know the drill around here. Mott's applesauce, if you're ever hungry, thirsty, whatever it might be, Mott's applesauce will satisfy whatever satisfy with the Caveman guarantee. I promise it will never fail you. Why do I think that 2022 is the perfect recipe for disaster for the New England Patriots? Well, there's a lot of ingredients that go into said recipe, such as how the end of last season went for the Patriots, how this offseason went with the draft, and how free agency went, and then on top of the fact that I think 2022 itself is going to be one rocky road. Let's begin by investigating ingredient number one, which is last season. Last season, New England Patriots actually shocked a lot of people, finishing 9-8, earning a playoff spot with rookie quarterback Mac Jones under center. They certainly broke expectations. Majority of the Patriots' success in 2021 derived from their defense, right? They finished second in the NFL in points against with just 17.8 points against per game. And Bill Belichick really set this defense up for success last season, and they did relatively well, but it was the offensive side of the ball that sometimes got them in some trouble. Granted, the Patriots' offense did finish sixth in the NFL in points for last season, averaging 27.2 points per game. So you're probably sitting here asking me, how in God's name can I say the offense dragged them down? They averaged almost 30 points per game. But when you indulge in the Patriots season last year, you would realize that that number of 27.2 points per game is extremely inflated because of three different matchups. Week 7 against the piss-poor New York Jets, they hung 54 on their heads. And then Week 10 against the battered down Cleveland Browns, who were struggling tremendously last season, they put up 45 on them. And then in a very useless Week 17 matchup for the Jacksonville Jaguars, at least, the New England Patriots showed absolutely no mercy and put 50 on their heads as well. And when you look a little bit further into the offensive numbers for the Patriots, things start to get a lot more interesting. Not only did those three games inflate their points for averages, but in the 10 games that the New England Patriots played last season where their opponent finished above 500, they averaged a mere 21.4 points per game, which would have finished around 18th in the NFL overall. I'm sure you remember the big 7-game winning streak that the Patriots went on about halfway through the season, where they took teams down like the Bills in that windstorm. They took down the Chargers as well as the Titans. But I remember when they were on that big win streak, coming out of their bye week, they played against the Indianapolis Colts. And I remember saying to myself, this is the game for the Patriots that is really the test. Can they beat pretty much a mirror image of themselves? I thought in my mind at the time that the New England Patriots were pretty much a worse version of the way the Indianapolis Colts operated, right? Just a pretty good run game that's getting them by a pedestrian quarterback and very good defenses. So thinking to myself, if the Patriots can beat the Colts, then I will truly believe all the hype. I'll truly believe that they're not a team that just got hot. If they can take down the Colts, a mirror image of themselves, who I also viewed to be one of the better teams in the AFC at the time, then this team really is the truth. But obviously, as we know, the Patriots did end up losing that game to the Colts. But including that Colts loss coming right out of the bye, as well as the loss that the Patriots took to the Bills in the wild card, they lost 4 out of their last 5 games of the 2021 season after a 7-game win streak. They really cooled right off. That one win came against the Jaguars in that Week 17 blowout where they put up 50, like I mentioned earlier. But another intriguing factor about those final 5 games for the Patriots that I came to realize was that key contributor, key pass rusher for the Patriots, Matt Judon, did not record a single sack in those final 5 games either. To pile it on, in those final 5 games, Patriots gave up on average 30 points per game in those last 5. In comparison to their 17.8 on the year overall, that is miserable. And then, do I really need to say it? I've been kind of implying it the entire time, but that wild card loss to the Bills, granted the Patriots didn't really have a chance in the first place, the Bills played a near perfect game and blew that team out of the water, and that defense once again was invisible. So the Patriots end the 2021 season on pretty much the worst note possible in the final 5 weeks, and they go into the offseason looking to be a little bit more optimistic. But what did the Patriots do? Well, it doesn't take long to cover it because they basically did nothing. Between a very questionable draft class and pretty much no moves made in free agency other than trading for linebacker Mack Wilson from the Cleveland Browns as well as wide receiver Devontae Parker from the Dolphins, offseason was pretty damn quiet, and Matt Judon on Twitter was pretty vocal about it, and he was trying to get guys to come to the Patriots, but he was not successful. It was kind of a joke at the time. The key additions that the Patriots added throughout this offseason were just not nearly enough to make up for the key losses that they suffered. They lost offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels, who they have yet to replace, by the way, as well as Pro Bowl corner J.C. Jackson. They traded away one of their best guards in Shaq Mason, and they lost former All-Pro kick/punt returner Gunnar Olszewski. He is actually one of the most important parts of probably the best unit the Patriots have, and that's their special teams unit. If I throw the key losses as well as the key additions that the Patriots had this offseason, I think it's safe to say that the losses they suffered this offseason heavily outweigh the gains. So that's ingredient number 2, and ingredient number 3 for the recipe of disaster for the Patriots is just the 2022 schedule itself. Although the Patriots' strength of schedule, which ranks around 16th in the NFL, may not reflect what I'm about to say, they have one treacherous season ahead of them. They are going to be outmatched in almost every game they play, man. They do not have the talent level. They do not have the roster. They don't have the players to keep up with who they have to play against. Looking up and down the Patriots schedule, if you include the game against the Browns and you're under the assumption that they will not have Deshaun Watson, then the Patriots may, and I say may be, favored in 6 of their 17 games next season. I mean, their own division is going to be hell for them. They're not going to beat the Bills. They already got swept by the Dolphins last year as is, and the Dolphins got better and the Patriots didn't. There's the Jets, who I would argue have a lot more talent on the offensive, maybe even defensive side of the ball at this point. It's like they can maybe lose both games to or at least one game to the Jets. Lucky for them, they get the NFC North. It could be a little bit worse, but they still have to play the Packers as well as the Vikings. I don't think the Lions are going to be complete pushovers, but then there's the Bears. I think they should handle the Bears just fine. But let's look at their schedule as a whole and narrow into the games they have after their bye week. Their bye week comes at week 10, so let's look at 11 through 18, and my, oh my, is it going to get dark for this franchise. So week 11, they get the Jets, right? And I already mentioned now, I think the Jets could give them a run for their money. I think they're arguably a more talented team than the Patriots right now. After that, there's no doubt that the Patriots are outmatched in every single game they play. They get Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen against the Minnesota Vikings. Following week in week 13, they get the Bills with Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen. The week after that, they get Kyler Murray, D-Hop, all those weapons. Then they get the Raiders, who just added Devontae Adams with Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller. They added Chandler Jones on the defensive side of the ball. After that, they get the Super Bowl runner-ups, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, one of the best offensive casts in all of football. Yeah, the Patriots will be able to keep up with that. And then in week 17, they get the Dolphins, who may very well sweep them for a second consecutive season, and then they get the Bills in week 18. I mean, there is a very high probability that the Patriots go 1-7 in their final 8. There is no way in hell anyone can convince me that an offense led by Mac Jones, Damian Harris, and Devontae Parker can keep up with any of the offenses that I just mentioned. The only chance this Patriots team is going to have to win football games is if their defense is extremely stout like they were last season. But without J.C. Jackson now, and based on how they finished 2021, I don't think that's going to be the case. I know there are people out there that believe that Bill Belichick is this ultra football genius, and don't get me wrong, I am one of those people. I think Bill Belichick is still the best coach in the NFL. But even the chess master needs his pieces to win. I don't think he's got enough pieces this year, and I think the Patriots are truthfully going to struggle. He's not going to be able to implement the same types of defenses that he was last year. The offense is going to suck. It's just really looking to be that recipe for disaster that I keep mentioning. I'm going to wait a little later on in the offseason to do an actual record prediction for the Patriots, but I really do see myself giving them a 4-6 win projection. I just don't think it's going to be good, but that will wrap things up. Let me know any thoughts you have down in the comment section below. Am I way off on this prediction? Do you think I'm getting on the right track here? Any thoughts, leave them down there, but as always, if you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, do all the fun stuff. If you want to hit the bell to be notified when I upload, I'd appreciate that, and then go over to Twitter, follow me over there, I'd appreciate that as well. I have a TikTok down in my description that I think you should check out, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.